Yes, welcome to today's webinar. We go to the next slide. E-sign in no time, how to increase efficiency in your processes using a ready-to-use electronic signature solution. My name is Nicole Schmeida. I'm the marketing specialist here at DocuWare. I'll be moderating the polls and Q&A at the end of today's session. Our main presenter is Bob Mutarelli, Solution Architect, and we also have Joanne Kreidel, Solution Manager on the line, who will join us for Q&A. We have some fun facts about ourselves that I wanted to share. Just fun fact about Bob, outside of being in the IT industry, he enjoys playing trumpet and flugelhorn in a brass band, so that's very cool. Joanne is a proud mom of an awesome registered nurse. Appreciate her work, especially during these times. And just a fun fact about me this month, I really love dark chocolate over milk chocolate. I'll try any kind. So just some fun facts there. Before we begin, the webinar is being recorded, and there's some handouts in your GoToWebinar panel. There's an e-signatures ebook, product flyer, and a case study. So after the webinar, expect an email including the recording and these handouts. As we go through today's webinar, submit your questions anytime in the question box. And at the end of the webinar, please complete the survey that pops up. So for just a quick outline of today's agenda, Bob will introduce you to DocuWare electronic signatures and all that's involved with that. We'll go into a live demo and we'll answer your questions at the end for Q&A. So before we get into the first part, we do have a poll question for you all, which I'm going to launch on the screen now. So let me launch that right now. So you can see if you turn to your screen, how are you handling your signatures now? Select one. Maybe you don't have any process at all, you kind of just wing it. Or do you copy and paste an image of a signature to get done? You email documents back and forth. You do use electronic signatures already maybe in some capacity, or other. Type your answer in the question box. So we'll wait, some more time until we get a good amount voted here, and then I will share the results. So please take a moment to select your choice now on the screen if you haven't already. Looks like I'm getting more votes coming in. Almost there. Just want to a couple more percentages here. All right. So we got a good amount voted. I'm going to share the results now on the screen. Share. Bob, did you want to speak to, kind of what we're seeing here?
Should I see the results?
Yes, in your panel.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Well, a lot more people have no defined process than I would have suspected. Over 30%. Right behind that, we have they do use some electronic signatures. I'm not really sure what that means, whether they already have a validated ID or DocuSign account that they incorporate into their everyday use. I'm assuming that that's what that means. Mailing and email documents back and forth is next. Copying, pasting an image of a signature, that is a lot more popular than I would have thought. Unfortunately, it's also probably one of the most least secure methods of doing it. And then there's just a 3% other caption. So I'm not sure what else you could be doing other than, that I would have thought that copying, pasting of an image of a signature would have been probably the majority of the others, but who knows? But
like,
that's a little surprising.
Someone said they do it in person at the moment, so that's still being done. Yeah, so thanks for, everyone for answering the poll. Whether you don't have any process at all or maybe use some electronic signatures, we're here to show you like how does using DocuWare and electronic signatures compare to what you're doing now. So with that now, Bob, I'm going to pass it back to you and let you take it from there.
Cool. Thank you, Nicole. And thank you everybody for participating in that poll. That does actually give me a good idea as to what's happening in the field, if you will, with how everybody is getting documents signed. But before we go through today's webinar, you guys have a pretty good idea of who I am now. I'm a solution architect. I'm 6 years now with DocuWare. I've spent most of that time creating and enhancing our pre-configured solutions, and DocuWare for electronic signature is one of those pre-configured solutions. Now, before we go through this, we need to, pay a little bit of attention to certain things like, we just saw the poll about the current signature processes, recent occurrences. Have there been any recent occurrences that either prohibit you from getting a document signed? What happens to documents once they're complete? And questions like that need to really be asked before you enter into an electronic signature routine. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the slides because I'm pretty sure that everybody wants to see how it works. But there are certain things that we need to discuss, specifically the legality of electronic signatures, right? There are a lot of rules and regulations behind it. With e-signatures, you create certainty for three essential factors. Usually it's authenticity, which is the document genuine? There's also integrity, which means have the contents of the document been manipulated at all? And the origin, is the person who created the document, can they be defined and identified? Continuing on the types of signatures. Most of the signature service providers today, and specifically the two that we are integrated with, DocuSign and Validated ID, they all provide some simple signature. Now, a simple signature is basically typing the name under an email, using a digital stamp, or checking a box where some example of a simple signature resides. There are advanced signatures, which usually involve some type of encryption, requiring a key provided by some trusted service provider. Again, the ones we use are Validated ID and DocuSign, and the addition of a two-factor authentication or perhaps a biometric signature device using a fingerprint scan or some type of a reader where you could use a stylus to scroll a signature onto a document. And then the more qualified signatures are those that offer the highest level of security. This includes some type of certificate from the service provider to ensure that the document has not been manipulated and that the certificate authenticates the signer's identity. DocuWare has the ability to display documents and make them available to you no matter where you are. It can be on a laptop or a desktop type computer or any mobile device, whether it's iOS or Android. Documents can be retrieved and signed from any one of these types of devices. So here's a little visual that identifies how the solution works. And again, the two service providers, Validated ID and DocuSign, both of them offer various signature methods available. And I'm going to be showing you one of the simpler ways that we do, that we provide a signature. And behind the scenes, DocuWare provides all of the workflows necessary to send the documents for signature through the TSP or the trusted service provider based on the requirements within something called a configuration document. And that document determines everything specific to the signature, where it's placed on the document and its size and so on. And also what happens post-signature. Does the receiver of the document, does the person who signed it, do they get back a copy of it signed or not? Are they allowed to change the mobile phone number that's associated with them when they get their validation code? So all these things are controlled by something called the configuration, the signature configuration document. We're going to see an example of that when we go into the demo. So it's simple DocuWare form to create this configuration. We see an example of it in this slide. The signature configuration can be used for multiple documents. So if you have a single configuration that identifies, let's say, a specific place on the last page of the document that requires a signature, if other documents use that same condition, the same place or specific conditions are met for that signature, then you can use the same configuration for many documents. When a document needs very specific coordinates, let's say, for the signature, or specific anchor text to look at, and these, if you're not familiar with these terms, you'll see them in a couple of minutes, where the signature is going to be placed, then it would require an additional configuration. Oops, a little quick on that one. So let's talk for a minute about DocuSign. DocuSign provides the remote signature, which is the basic. It's sent to one person. It's signed, however it's signed, whether it's on a PC or a tablet, smartphone, and then it's returned back to the originator. The multi-position signature is a methodology that would allow you to put initials, let's say, on several different pages, ultimately getting a signature at the end, or perhaps multiple signatures. All of that is covered under the multi-position signature configuration. Within validated ID, the same remote signature, one sent to one person, signed and returned, is also the same multi-position signature, which accommodates initials and multiple signatures. It also offers a centralized signature, which is normally an internal employee that's signing many documents within a single process, or the biometric signatures where the signer uses a tablet or some type of signature device in order to sign the document. The bottom line of it, though, is everybody saves time, and it's a very secure environment. So there's no more scanning and emailing a document to someone and wondering what happened to it after it left. At this point, within the service providers, all of the monitoring and certificates are intact when a document gets signed, so you know exactly what's happened to it, where it's been, and where it's coming from. So let's see it. Let's see what the process actually looks like. So those of you who are not familiar with DocuWare, I realize there's some people on this webinar that have never seen DocuWare in action. So just a brief overview of the user interface. So I am logged into DocuWare. It's a cloud-based solution. So I use my browser and connect to my very personal private cloud organization. On the left side, you'll see I have what are called trays. In this case, I have two trays, the administrator's tray and a tray called First Steps. These trays are very similar to the inbox on your desk. Okay, you've got an inbox on your desk, somebody comes and drops documents in it, or you put documents in it, and they stay there until you act on them and require something to happen with them. Either you store them in a file cabinet by walking across the room and putting it in a file cabinet for later retrieval, or you may delete it, you may forward it to somebody. Different things can happen, but this is the staging area where a document resides until you do something with it. We also have a search panel, which allows us to use multiple search dialogues, as they're called, to look in different file cabinets to find specific documents that we're looking for, so that when you do a search and provide some index data for context and then search, you'll find the results. So in this case, let's say I wanted to search in the system data file cabinet for service registration documents. By selecting search, I come up with the service registration that is in the system right now. Lists are very similar to result lists. I can make these dynamic, almost like dashboards, so that as documents meet certain criteria, they will be displayed in here dynamically. And tasks are simply tasks that are assigned to me by a workflow. We won't see much when it comes to tasks in today's demonstration because the workflows really work autonomously. And then the last one is forms, and these are the forms that are available to me as the DocuWare user. And we'll see that one of those forms is the service registration form. This is where it all starts. If as a new DocuWare user, you're going to be doing electronic signatures. You need to register with a service provider. So you do that by launching this web form and selecting the service provider you choose. It's either Validated ID or DocuSign. Those are the two that we currently support. Whether more come in the future or not, well, I'm not sure at this point, but these are the two big ones that we currently integrate with. So let's say I was using DocuSign, and notice that the form expands now to be very specific to DocuSign, so that if I were to use an electronic signature and I do not have access and want to test the solution, I can use this link to bring me to DocuSign's trial sign up. If I already had a DocuSign account, I could use the other link to take me to DocuSign to log into my account. Either way, the result would be I would get back an email with a token value from DocuWare. But since I'm using Validated ID for my demonstration, I already ran this registration and received my token. And I know that because if I were to look in my service registration document that's already stored, I have the token returned, and that is now identified right here. So I have a service registration for Validated ID, and I have a valid token. The next part of the process is I need a configuration document to process my forms. So I have another document here called New Service Configuration. So by launching this, I can then go through the process of creating a new configuration for a signature. Now, I've already got one, but I'll go through this document and show you how it works. So the configuration name should be unique so that it matches any document that requires this specific configuration. So I'm calling this my non-disclosure agreement. My service provider is the only one that I have signed up for right now is Validated ID. And we can ignore the file cabinet designation because we're using this right now in a kind of a standalone environment. This is only signatures. If we were to take advantage of this signature, electronic signature plugin in one of the other DocuWare pre-configured solutions like employee management or smart document control, we could change the file cabinet that we store our documents in. But rather than getting into that level of detail, let's just say we're going to keep it all within the same application. So what type of signature do we want associated with this document? So again, Validated ID has 4 different types of signatures. We're going to keep it simple and do just a remote signature. So you'll notice that as soon as I select remote, the form changes to meet the needs of a remote signature. If I were to select one of the other signature types, the available fields would change to match that. So here are the configuration specific pieces of information. Do I want to allow the signee, the person signing the document, to change the mobile number? The default value is no, but you could select yes here if you wanted to. The number of days the link will be available. So we have a default set to 2. Again, you could change that to whatever you need. This is where the document link will expire. So we have it set to expire in 2 days, allowing 1 reminder after 24 hours, which is what this means right here. So 2 days, 1 reminder after 24 hours. These, again, could match whatever your needs are. I mentioned the post-signature processing. So the signed document will be clipped before the unsigned document. What are my options here? I can have the signed document replace the unsigned document. I can have the signed document clipped before the unsigned document or clipped after the unsigned document. What clipped means is that DocuWare will join the forms. So the original unsigned document will be, in this case, the signed document will be clipped before the unsigned. So those 2 documents will be stored within the file cabinet together. And we're going to leave this option set like this, and it'll show up in the demo. Do we want to attach a certificate? Remember, the service providers give you the availability of a certificate to prove the authenticity of the document and where it's been. And do we want the signed document to be sent to the person that signed it so that they have a record of it already signed? And you could set this to yes or no. Is there an additional internal signature? So even with a remote signature, you can say, I need my boss to sign this as well. And if you choose to have someone else sign it, you can choose either the user who requested the signature, in this case me, or a fixed user, which would mean that the user has to be in a list of signees that's already provided to the system. And then you could say, do you want the external signee to sign it first, the internal first, or in no particular order, which means it doesn't matter. Anybody can sign it. Or anybody can sign it they can be signed in whatever order. It doesn't matter. But I'm not going to select an internal signature. Again, file cabinet information, because we're going to keep it within this particular organization. There's no reason to change any of that. But this is where it gets interesting. The placement of the signature. Now, you can choose to identify the specific page that the signature is going to go on, or you can identify anchor text. Now, what's anchor text? Let's go look at the document. The sample document that I'm going to be storing is this non-disclosure agreement. And when I double click on the document, it opens into this viewing area that I can either shrink or maximize to make it easier to read. And if I go to the last page, see there's one of two pages. And on the last page, I see the word signature. And I want the signature to go right up here on this line. So I'm going to use anchor text of the word signature as the way I'm going to sign this document. So if I come over here and I select identify anchor text, the height and width of the signature are specified, and any specification of coordinates on this document are done in millimeters. So 25 millimeters is approximately 1 inch. So I want it to be approximately 1 inch high and approximately 2 inches wide. And that's by default, and you can modify that if you want to. Now I specify the anchor text. What is the text I expect DocuWare to look for, or in this case, validated ID to look for on the document in order to determine where the signature is going to go? So I'm going to use the word signature. Now, what page should I look on to get that word signature? Well, I can identify on the first page, the last page, or a specific page. But I know based on what I've seen on the document, I want the last page. But the word may appear more than once on the page. So I get to choose the occurrence. Do I want the first occurrence of the word signature on the last page, the last occurrence, or a specific occurrence? I may choose the third occurrence if that's the case. But I know that on this document, it's going to be the first occurrence of the word signature on the last page. Now, the only other thing I need to do is provide the coordinates based on the anchor text where I want the signature to be. So I've done this already, so I know that it's pretty close, but basically I want to come up and over to put the signature on this line. And I've worked that out currently to approximately 17 millimeters and 4 millimeters. Actually, it's minus 17 millimeters to move the value up. And I want to go up from the word signature about 17 millimeters, and I want to come over about 4 millimeters in order to put it where I want it to be. And then email to the signee. What do I want the signee to see when they get their email? So I'm going to say the sender is the pre-configured solutions team. It should be in English, and the subject and the body of the email. So once I submit this document, it's stored within the system as a signature configuration document. So the document resides now in the file cabinet as a signature configuration. So what does that mean? I've got a service registration with a valid token. I've got a signature configuration called Demo Non-Disclosure Agreement. That means if I were to submit this document for signature and store it in my electronic file cabinet, I can choose whether I want it to be signed right away, submit it for signature now, or send it for signature later, which means I would store the document electronically in my file cabinet and then utilize a stamp in order to initiate one of the available signature types. But I'm going to say let's sign it for signature now, send it for signature now, use the signature configuration demo non-disclosure agreement. I can identify some index values again so that I can find the document easily in the future. Maybe I'll give it a document number, date, the company involved. But this is the information that's important, right? I need the contact, the email that I want to send this document to for signature, and the mobile number that will get the authentication code. Remember I said on the configuration document there was a way for you to allow the user or the receiver to change the mobile number. This is the mobile number it's talking about. Subject, project, biometric device, not really needed for this particular type of signature. So all I need to do now is store this document. And the automated workflows behind the scenes will kick off the process. So I'm sending that actually to my Gmail account. And here we go. I've got now an email at my Gmail account saying my signature is required. So when I connect to it or I click on the link, I'm presented with the VidSigner promo window. By clicking access the document, VidSigner launches and presents to me the document that requires my signature. I can review the document, and then it shows me where the signature will go. If I agree with it and I'm ready to sign this document, I click the sign button. Remember, my mobile device has received an authentication code that I provide here. And I'm now going to sign the document. Sometimes I wish I should just sign it John Smith. It might be a little bit easier. So once the process does what it has to do, the signature is completed. I can close this email. And because I specified that I wanted the signer of the document to receive a copy of it, in a couple of minutes, I'll get another email with the signed document. For now, though, let's go back. If I look at the current file cabinet, I see I have my non-disclosure agreement. And what this is telling me on the top is that there are now 3 documents here. We're looking at document 1 of 3, page 1 of 2. So if I were to go to the second page on this document, here's my signature on the line exactly where I wanted it to be. The other 2 documents that got sent back to me, the second one is the certificate from Validated ID showing the authenticity. And the third one, because I specified it on the configuration, is the unsigned document. I mentioned lists earlier, and this list is a dashboard of signed documents. And now that I have a signed document, it appears in this list. So that's how easy it is especially with a remote signature, how easy it is to get a document signed electronically and securely using the DocuWare for electronic signature pre-configured solution. You slip back into the presentation. So we didn't get too technical in that demo, or at least I hope my intent was not to get too technical. But there are very specific and certain things that you need to be aware of when it comes to the requirements for signing a document. While not everybody will need to do that, what I mean by that is that not everybody who gets documents signed will be creating these configurations. They are created more probably by an administrator of some sort, but the everyday users only need to know that they log into DocuWare, they put a document in a tray and store it for signature. That's it. And then they can go back and look at it later once it's been signed and it appears in that signed documents list. As I said, that's more of a dashboard, but as part of the delivered system, if you would look, there's a document, there's a tray called First Steps and More. In here are sample DocuSign and validated ID signature configuration documents to be used as a sample. There's also a flow chart that describes what happens to documents, how the automated workflows proceed and result in the document being presented to someone to be signed. This is what that workflow looks like. The use cases that we've seen for electronic signatures really run the gambit of any use case that could be in any environment. There's sales, marketing, HR, facilities, project management, support, legal, way beyond all. We see contracts, proposals, compliance. All of these could benefit from electronic signature processing. Specifically, the pieces of electronic signature that benefit most are minimizing risk. Right? The electronic signatures eliminate the risk associated with manually scanning and emailing documents. The automatic workflows keep the information moving forward to get your resolution, to get this document signed and stored securely in the electronic file cabinet. Access from mobile devices means you can provide signature services to people either on Android or any mobile device, as well as laptops and desktop appliances. And the security and signature detail customized to the requirements of the document. You're not locked into one size fits all. You can customize the configuration to meet the needs of the document, whatever the document is, whatever use case you're applying it to. So how easy is it to get the solution? No, let's use it. We provide methods of using the DocuWare solution either in the cloud, as we just saw, through a browser, or if your requirements prohibit the cloud use, you can utilize an on-premises version, which gives all of the same functionality within an on-premises implementation. And the signature certificates, well, that the individual providers are contracted directly in order to provide their services. So that's all I really had planned on showing. I think with that, I'm going to turn it back to Nicole.
All right, yeah, thanks, Bob. Thanks for the great overview and introductory demo. We do have another poll question for you all on the line, so I'm going to share that now if you want to go back to your main screen if you're not there already. So I just launched it. So, you know, what you just saw Now, what excites you? What are you most interested about now that you saw Docker for electronic signature and how they, work together? Are you interested in you're able to create the signature configurations you need. So, what you need to create, and you can apply that to the documents that have similar needs pretty easily. It's straightforward for all your stakeholders to sign, streamlined for you and for them. Security is top of mind. Anywhere, anytime document access, meaning for you as the employee and also for the person that's signing it, they can sign it from anywhere. Or other, type in the answer in the question box. So I'll wait for a few more votes coming in here now, and then I'll share the results.
It looks like it's leveling off now.
Sorry?
Yeah, it looks like the entries are slowing down now.
Yeah, okay. All right, it looks like we got a good amount. I'll close it now and share the results. Let's see, all right, so it looks like majority first, it's straightforward for stakeholders to sign documents, and then security, is definitely up there. You want to stress out about are the documents being signed by the people that are actually signing it, and then creating the signature configurations you need, followed by that mobile access, which is definitely needed in this time of hybrid workforces. So all right, let's see. I'm going to close the poll. We just have a couple more slides to finish off before we head into Q&A. So on the next slide, you can see our compliance and awards. But we're most proud of also is our user reviews on sites like G2 Crowd, Capterra, Gartner Peer Insights. So head there, search for Docker if you want to read about real success stories. I'll also include a link in the follow-up email later today. And on the next slide, we just wanted to give you a sample of the 15,000 companies worldwide that work with DocuWare. So you can see some familiar names on there, but we do work with, any size company in any industry. We want DocuWare to work for you and your, specific processes. And we do have a quote from one customer, WSM Personal. They are an HR services provider, and they manage a lot of employment contracts in different countries. So when they use DocuWare and signatures to digitize those processes, they're able to be more productive. And you can see at the end, without DocuWare and the integrated signatures, they would need more staff to handle all the manual processes, but that's, cut back through DocuWare's digitization benefits. So, we're at the end now. So we just want to reflect on, where do you go from here? What are your two paths that you can go down? We hope you don't take any action. We don't want you to risk potential fraud and missed opportunities. Your competition, they're automating, they're looking for ways to streamline their processes. We just don't want you to be left behind. So we hope you take the next step. Contact your DocuWare partner, request a personalized demo so you can make sure your documents are secure, but also you're doing all you can to make sure that you're increasing productivity at the same time. So with that, we'll open up for Q&A. Again, what you saw today was just, a first look at the solution. If you want to definitely see more, continue the conversation by contacting your authorized DocuWare partner, request a personalized demo at docuware.com/demo, or email us anytime at contact.us@docuware.com with any thoughts or questions, and we'll follow up right away. So with that, I'm actually going to turn my camera back on for the Q&A. So let's see the questions here. The first one, someone asked, can you require signatures in order by a list of names, A first, B second, and so on?
Yes, I'm sorry, I was muted there. Yes, you absolutely
But
can. I think as part of the configuration, I pointed out other internal signature could have easily been identified as a list of signees that are available, and then the order that they need to be signed in. So yeah, that comes under the heading of the multiple signature configuration,
Mhm.
and those specific areas that are going to be signed are specified in order and then saved in the configuration.
gotcha. Okay. Bob, I don't know if you were able to turn your camera back on or if you wanted to prevent any slow running there, but I just started to mention that.
I'm still here.
Okay. Um, someone asked, can you expand how the e-signature would work in a B2C environment?
Well, I need a little more information on what B2C is.
Business to customer.
B2B, business to customer. Yeah, I mean, if you think about the example that we saw, the remote signature, as long as they have an email address, you can, within your business, send it directly to a person as long as you have their email address, and provide them with a secondary authentication to a mobile phone, or you could go without that secondary authentication, but you could certainly provide the signature to the document to a specific email address. They would sign it electronically and it would be returned back to you. Whether that's a customer, a vendor, a supplier, doesn't really matter.
Gotcha. Next question is, are there any options for real-time signatures on a tablet or a phone?
I'm not really sure what real time means.
Maybe would that be the biometric signatures? Like if you're at
A kiosk or something like that.
yeah,
And
or at a dealership.
a biometric device, whether it be a fingerprint scanner or some type of electronic pad that you scribe on with a stylus. Yeah, certainly, absolutely. That's just considered a biometric signature.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yep. And all they would have to do is just register that device
Right.
through one of the configurations, which is really simple.
Gotcha, okay. So it has to be like the device that is being used to sign on has to be registered.
Yep. And that's with validated ID.
Gotcha. Someone asked, how is the document able to get back into the Docuware system, I guess after it was signed?
Well, that's all handled by the automated workflows. The document is actually sent to the email address once it's signed and returned, or comes back via email, the same electronic process. We recognize it as a document that was sent for signature. There is a document or a data record that we use to keep track of it. So when it gets returned, we know exactly what to do with it.
Right, gotcha.
I hope that answers your question.
Let's see. Someone asked, is there anything to download on phones to use a signature? Is there a download required for each user, or can it be sent to anyone? I guess to the signee.
I guess it really depends. If you're utilizing an email address, emailing the document, then you're using email on your phone. So you're only really opening the document and signing it right on your, using your finger on your phone or your tablet. If you're using it as a biometric device, that's a little different story. The document is still, I don't believe that there's a download or a plugin. Once you get the document directly on your phone as a biometric device, then it becomes signing or using maybe a fingerprint scanner or something like that to get the document signed off.
So I mean, as long as the signee has an email address and internet to access, they can sign the document pretty smoothly. Oh, okay. All right. Let's see. Let's see. This question is, we use Docuware Stamp as a signature for invoice. Is there any function to lock editing the documents that we create within Docuware?
Yeah, DocuWare actually will lock the document. If it's open in a workflow task, and you're choosing to use a stamp at that point, that document would be locked. If someone else tried to actually gain access to that document, they would get a little message saying the document's been locked by someone else for editing. And until you clear that lock, then they'll be able to see it again.
All right, looks like we're over time. Just have like 2 more questions. Someone asked, and I guess this is a good like clarification. What is the difference between scanning your signature into DocuWare and using validated ID or DocuSign?
Well, scanning your signature onto your computer or laptop really just means that anybody who logs into your machine or anybody who's on your machine would have access to that signature image. And it's just a matter of copying and pasting it onto whatever document they want to put it on. To me, that just seems like one of the most exposed ways of doing it.
Right.
In the past, people have used stamps with bitmaps of images, and there was, within DocuWare, you could password protect those so that only the person with the password could apply the stamp. So there were a couple of different ways that, within DocuWare, you could protect yourself from that, that liability. But certainly, using one of the professionals, validated ID or DocuSign, would be the most secure way to do it.
Gotcha. All right, actually, I think that was actually the last question. Joanne or Bob, did you have any final comments before we log off today?
No, I would just say thank you for your patience and for paying attention. And if you have any questions, just reach out.
Thank you.
All right, yeah, thank you, Bob and Joanne. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Yes, I will be emailing the recording. Look out for it in a couple hours, just has to process. And yeah, so thanks again for joining us. Hope you're able to see, how DocuWare combined with electronic signatures really can elevate your processes, increase efficiency, and, increase your security. So again, reach out with any comments or questions, and hope you guys have a great rest of your day and hope you have a great weekend. Take care.